Hello! Today we are going over the manhwa, The Abandoned Empress. The previous parts are linked in the description. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps a lot. In the last episode, we learned so much about Revelis' backstory, as well as Alendis' feelings for Aristia. As Aristia continues to live and learn around the castle and the other nobles, what will she do when her father leaves her in charge of the Monique house and business? Find out now. Aristia is still at the market, and she has met the youngest of the Duras family, Carsign. He's surprised to see a girl looking at all the weapons, and he remarks that the current weapon Aristia was studying was going to be too heavy for her. He gives her another weapon to try, and as Aristia truly starts to recognize him, she notices how arrogant he is. He offers to help her with her sword training, but their conversation is interrupted by Carsign's servant, who's upset at the young boy for running away from him again. Carsign is led off by this servant, but he tells Aristia to visit him before he leaves. Back at the palace, Aristia trains alone, but she soon finds herself stuck without any guidance from anyone. She remembers Carsign's words from earlier, and she soon finds herself at the residence of the Duke Arkant in order to visit Carsign. Aristia meets Duchess Ernia while she waits on Carsign, and Aristia notes that the Duchess still does not like her, much like in her previous time. The awkward conversation is cut short by Carsign, who's excited to see Aristia. The Duchess cuts the reunion short, however, and she makes Carsign and Aristia formally introduce themselves. Aristia introduces herself as being from the House Monique, but Carsign freezes. He asks her if she is to be the future Empress. The chapter opens a day before the expedition at the Veritas house. The Duke Arkant and the Marquess Monique are playing chess, and Marquess Monique is distracted. He's worried about leaving his daughter and is more worried about how close Alendis is to Aristia. Duke Arkant suggests that his younger son watches over Aristia, and Papa Monique considers the deal. Suddenly, the chapter goes back to where we left off in the last chapter. Carsign is screaming at Aristia, exclaiming that he will not help her at all. Aristia doesn't understand his sudden outburst, but the Duchess reminds Carsign that he promised his father to look after the young girl. Carsign decides to continue to help Aristia, but he is cold and rude to her, which is very different from how happy he was to see her only moments ago. The two children meet outside on the training grounds, and Aristia asks why Carsign has had a sudden change of heart about her. His response? Because she is from the House Monique. He continues by saying that he doesn't want to teach a girl of a noble house to use a sword, because the only reason a noble girl would want to use one would be to be different from others in the court. Aristia tells him that she doesn't want to use a sword for that reason, and Carsign tells her to prove it by showing him how good she is at the basics. After she demonstrates what she has learned, Carsign calls her skills pathetic. So rude. Aristia decides to endure Carsign's rude behavior, as he is a genius at swordmanship, and she needs help. Carsign still doesn't want to train Aristia, and he tells her to figure out her own training. Ugh. As Aristia turns to leave, Carsign calls her feeble and tells her to do something about her weak body, which gives Aristia an idea. Back at her own home, Aristia gathers her servants Alan and Lena. She orders her meals to be made according to a strict diet, and she has Lena made sandbags to go around her arms and legs for strength training. The servants of the Monique household are worried because for the next few days, Aristia's training is extremely intense. She trains with weights, does her sword exercises, and continues each day until she can't even feel her arms. Time passes, and we get to see what Carsign has been up to. We see him anxiously waiting for someone, and when a carriage passes, he hops up to see who it was. The passenger in the carriage turns out to just be a dress designer, and Carsign is disappointed. He's been waiting for Aristia all this time, and he wonders if he was too harsh on her. Gee, what would make him think that? Carsign feels a little conflicted since he offered to help Aristia in the first place. But as she is engaged to Prince Revelis, he no longer wants to train her because he believes she might be as unpleasant as the prince. Meanwhile, back at the Monique home, Aristia is training so hard. Her servants are worried she might get sick. Suddenly, Carsign bursts into the training grounds and interrupts her. He wanted to check in as he was tired of waiting, and he was horrified to see her training so hard all at once. He tries to take her training sword away, but Aristia has had enough. She tells him to leave as he didn't want anything to do with her in the first place. Aristia tries to dismiss Carsign and go back to her training, but he insists on stopping her. As Aristia tries to leave to move to another area, she becomes dizzy and passes out in Carsign's arms. Carsign carries her inside, and Aristia wakes up in her room with Lena caring for her. Aristia is frustrated because she's still weak, just like in her previous life, and she knows she does not have much time to change her future. However, her thoughts are interrupted because Carsign comes in to check on her. He tells her to stop training herself so roughly, as it will only wear down her body instead of making it stronger. He asks Aristia why she wants to train in the first place if she's so weak, but Aristia asks Carsign why he rejected her. Carsign explains that he did so because he thought she would quit her training once she was married to the prince. Carsign doesn't want to train someone who would just quit the art that he dedicated himself to. But Aristia is not going to quit. She tells Carsign that she will become a knight. Meanwhile, Prince Revelis is dealing with lords from the outskirts of the kingdom wanting more supplies due to things being scarce because of the drought. He watches an envoy enter the kingdom, and he wonders what they could be up to. What could it be? Aristia is set on becoming Marquess Aristia La Monique. She wants to become a knight and continue her family's name, but she doesn't know how, as it doesn't seem like she's getting any stronger. She explains this to Carsign, but she soon regrets it as she has never told anyone her plans. She puts her guard back up and tells Carsign to leave, and she also advises him to start acting more like a nobleman should. Carsign storms out of the house, and Aristia tries to rest, but she is haunted by how much everyone is worried about her, and she also remembers how Carsign called her pathetic. A few days later, Aristia is feeling much better. A letter arrives for her, and it is from the Emperor himself. He wants a meeting with her, and Aristia prepares herself to go to the palace. Once there, Aristia passes some lords discussing her. They comment that she is still too young to marry, but she walks away before she can hear the rest of their conversation. Aristia greets the Emperor, and he asks her who is guarding her in her home currently. She answers that there is no guard, and the Emperor appoints a royal guard to her immediately. Aristia doesn't want a royal guard, as it would link her further to the royal family, but the Emperor assures her that it won't be used against her in the future. Aristia becomes dizzy from all the excitement, but she wills herself to stay strong in front of the Emperor. Just then, the doors to the room open. Revelis has just walked in. Revelis has been stressed out. His father has left him in charge of drought relief of lords from different areas, and the young prince has been overloaded with paperwork. However, he's in the throne room with his father now because his father wanted to have tea with his son and Aristia. I guess the Emperor is fond of third wheeling? Anyway, there won't be any tea this time, as Aristia is still very weak. The Emperor notices how pale she is and orders her to the royal doctor. He suggests that his son take her, and the two go off to obey the Emperor. As they walk through the palace, Revelis notes how hard it is for Aristia to catch her breath. He orders a carriage to be brought, and Prince Revelis announces that the two will be traveling back to the Monique residence. During the ride, the prince studies Aristia. He is amazed that she has still fulfilled her duties in her weak state, and he is impressed on how composed she is. He remarks that they are both silly, but doesn't give an explanation as to why. Once Aristia is at her house, the prince immediately takes his leave, and Aristia wonders why she suddenly feels so empty. She wonders if maybe Revelis was worried about her, and she notes that she was less afraid of him on the way home. She goes inside, and meanwhile, Prince Revelis thinks about Aristia and wishes her well as he rides home. The royal guards have arrived, and they are everywhere. Aristia can't get a break because everywhere she goes, her guards are right there, keeping a close watch on her. As she goes about her business at the Monique residence, Lena one day approaches Aristia with letters. One is from Alendis, and he tells Aristia all about his adventures out in the outer territories. He tells her to take care of herself. Aww. And as she finishes his letter, she finds another one from her father. He writes to her that he will always support her, and his words encourage her to restart her training. Meanwhile, at the outskirts of the kingdom, Alendis is thinking of Aristia. He's writing another letter to her, and his father notes that he is upset at being away from the palace and from Aristia. He tells his son that him being so close to the prince's fiancée is dangerous, and that is why Alendis was sent on the expedition in the first place. Alendis' father turns to leave, and he tells him to rest. And Alendis swears to himself that he won't give up on or abandon Aristia. Sir Seymour, one of Aristia's new royal guards, is training Aristia in the basics. He notes that she's doing very well, and Aristia invites him to tea. As the two have tea, Seymour senses that an intruder has entered the garden. The intruder is none other than Carsign. Carsign is surprised to see a royal guard there, and Aristia excuses Seymour to speak with Carsign alone. Carsign doesn't really know why he has decided to see Aristia, so he makes up a problem. He says that he took offense to her telling him to act like a lord in their last meeting, and he wants to confront her. Aristia apologizes, and Carsign wonders why she doesn't get angry. He says that apologizing is lowering oneself, and Aristia teases him by saying not using manners lowers a person much more. Such a smart girl. She asks him again what his reason was to visit, and she also teases him that if his improper behavior continues, she will inform the Duke Arkant of his rude behavior. Since the two are apologized, Carsign invites Aristia over once again. Aristia refuses, saying she doesn't need any more help from him, as she has Seymour as an instructor. Carsign decides to invite himself to Aristia's training instead. The second day of training has started, and Carsign is excited to be part of the training. He's pretty rambunctious, so Aristia offers him tea to calm him down. He sips it, and he spits it out almost immediately. He complains about the flavor and insults Aristia's taste, and Aristia has had enough. She snatches the cup from him and storms off to sit alone. Carsign asks Sir Seymour what he could have done wrong, and Seymour says that to drink tea brewed by the Lady Monique is an honor, as it is a hobby of hers. Carsign walks over to Aristia and apologizes by trying to drink the rest of the tea. Aristia gives him some sugar to try in his tea, and Carsign drinks it up. Meanwhile, at the palace, Prince Revelis has an audience with nobles, and they want to discuss Lady Aristia. They said that she seems too young to help with the needs of the kingdom, and they offer one of their own princesses to be queen in order to be next to Aristia when she is Empress. Prince Revelis is offended at the lords for calling his engagement to Aristia into question. He concludes that his father probably didn't listen to the lords, and so they set their sights on the young prince instead. He sees their plan as a way to grab the title for heir to the throne for their own families, and he wonders if Aristia is feeling any better. At the Monique residence, more letters have arrived. Alendis writes about his time with Aristia last winter, and remembers the snowball fight that ended in Aristia getting a cold. He tells her to stay warm, and that in the spring a gift will come to her from him. Aristia wants to make her own gift for Alendis, and Carsign visits her as she makes bookmarks for Alendis and the rest of the knights. Later, during her training, Aristia takes a jog, but soon notices that someone might be watching her. She's grabbed by a green-haired man who appears in the shadows. And we have to stop there. Who could that man be? Find out in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching, and please remember to like this video and comment what you thought. We love to hear from you. Until next time, have a great day.